Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Daybreak Europe podcast. Good morning. It's Thursday, the 15th of January. I'm Caroline Hepker in London.
And I'm Stephen Carroll in Brussels. Coming up today, a White House meeting fails to repair Denmark's rift with the US over Greenland as NATO countries begin to deploy troops to the Arctic island.
President Trump signals that he'll hold off on attacking Iran for now.
Plus, heading east, China's President Xi welcomes a stream of global leaders shaken by Trump's new world order.
Let's start with a roundup of our top stories.
Denmark's top diplomat says a fundamental disagreement remains over Greenland following a meeting with the US Vice President and Secretary of State. The talks, which included Greenland's foreign minister, followed social media posts by President Trump repeating his demand for the US to take control of the island for national security reasons. While announcing an agreement to form a high-level working group, Danish Foreign Minister Lars Lokke Rasmussen said disregarding Greenland's right to self-determination is totally unacceptable.
Greenland, for the time being and for foreseeable future, will remain within the Kingdom of Denmark. And therefore, this is a common position that we want to work with our American friends and allies, but it must be respectful cooperation and it must respect the red lines.
Lars Lokke Rasmussen was speaking as European countries seek to respond to US threats over the territory. Germany says an exploration mission of 13 soldiers will arrive in Greenland shortly. France, meanwhile, says it will participate in joint drills on the territory this week. In addition, Sweden says it's sending several officers, Norway 2 people and the UK 1 officer.
US President Donald Trump has indicated that he might hold off on attacking Iran after being reassured by sources that the government in Tehran will stop killing protesters. The comments come as the Oslo-based Iran human rights group said that sources in the country's health ministry report at least 3,400 people have been killed and thousands injured in the protests. Here's what President Trump had to say.
The killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or an execution or executions. So I've been told that on good authority.
President Trump speaking, asked if military action is now off the table. The US president said that he would watch it and see what the process is. Oil prices have slumped in response to the comments, which mark a shift in tone a day after Trump had urged Iranians to continue their protests against the country's leadership.
Meanwhile, the US president says the main obstacle to peace in Ukraine is its own leader, Volodymyr Zelenskiy. Donald Trump's comments to Reuters are likely to alarm European allies, worried that Ukraine will suffer from any rush to a peace deal on bad terms. In a social media post, Ukraine's President Zelenskiy said his side is working hard on peace plans.
On our end, we are being as productive as possible. We also expect energy from the American side in their work. I personally am very much expecting this.
Zelensky also declared a state of emergency in the country's energy sector, which has come under intense Russian bombardment. Temperatures in Kyiv are expected to hit minus 17 degrees Celsius as much of the city faces disruptions to heating and power.
In the same interview with Reuters, President Trump says that he does not plan to fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell. The US leader said that his administration was in a holding pattern with the central banker. He added that he would be selecting Powell's replacement within weeks and attacked Republicans who had raised concerns about the Fed's independence as disloyal.
In the UK, estate agents are growing more optimistic about the housing market. Easing borrowing costs are driving up the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors gauge of expected sales. Bloomberg's James Wilcock has more.
London is facing a real estate slump. Prices fell 1.3% last year as the capital bore the brunt of tax uncertainty caused by the UK government's budget. But real estate agents see light at the end of the tunnel, pointing to falling interest rates and a hope Labour tax rises have peaked. A RICS index of confidence jumped from -4 to 22 in December as the property market hopes buying a house is one of your New Year's resolutions. In London, James Wilcock, Bloomberg Radio.
Elon Musk's XAI has blocked its chatbot Grok from creating sexualized images of real people. The move comes after widespread global criticism that the firm had allowed women and children to be victimized by the AI tool. Speaking before the news, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer welcomed changes from the platform.
I have been informed this morning that X is acting to ensure full compliance with UK law. If so, that is welcome, but we're not going to back down. They must act. We will take the necessary measures. We will strengthen existing laws and prepare for legislation if it needs to go further. And Ofcom will continue its independent investigation.
Keir Starmer there speaking in Parliament before a statement from XAI posted on X yesterday, which said that technological measures now prevent Grok from editing images of real people in revealing clothing, but paid subscribers can still create pictures that adhere to X's terms of service. Governments and regulators around the world have condemned the feature and opened investigations into XAI and Grok. Musk has so far defended the technology, instead blaming users for abusing it.
A crew of 4 astronauts has departed the International Space Station on Wednesday in NASA's first ever medical evacuation. NASA sent 4 astronauts back to Earth, the first time they've taken part in this. One crewmate was in need of medical attention, left the International Space Station alongside 3 others on Wednesday. The group is due to land in the Pacific Ocean early this morning. NASA declined to offer details on the astronauts' condition, citing medical privacy, but confirmed in a social media statement that it was not an emergency situation and the decision was taken to allow proper medical evaluations on the ground. 1 American and 2 Russian astronauts remain aboard the orbiting lab, taking part in the mission, which began just over a month ago with a Soyuz rocket liftoff from Kazakhstan.
Those are our top stories for you today. Looking at the markets right now, oil falling for the first time in 6 days. Brent crude futures are down well over 3% this morning. Silver is tumbling, gold, platinum and palladium also declining. 2 earnings to think about. Richemont in terms of third quarter sales up by 11%. TSMC is a beat on net income and gross margins. The dollar this morning is currently flat on the Bloomberg dollar spot index. 10-year treasury yields this morning also little change, trading at 4.14. This as European stock futures are up 0.2. US stock futures range bound but actually slightly negative. Those are the markets.
In a moment, more on that meeting in the US over Greenland, plus why world leaders are lining up to mend fences with China amid the turmoil in international relations. But another story that we've been reading this morning about people's changing relationship with alcohol. Our food editor Kate Crader has been looking into this. The numbers, things like Diageo projecting a drop in first quarter sales and surveys showing fewer adults are drinking, but also talking to restaurateurs about what they're seeing. And they're actually picking out different kinds of trends. Some people are choosing to get takeaway bottles of wine rather than sitting in a wine bar and having a drink. Others are actually seeing people drink more, like the steak chain Hawksmoor in London. Waitrose saw, we'll take from this what you will, sales of its canned rosé and sparkling wine jump last year too. So what does this mean for people's trend of alcohol? Are we drinking less? Are we drinking differently? Are we choosing to do different things? Kate looks through all the sort of various definitions of this too and comes up with a term that I haven't heard before, but I think I will be using now: zebra striping. This is where you're alternating an alcoholic drink and a non-alcoholic drink on a night out as well. Just one of the new habits people are picking up.
Yeah, I like this story. I think it's great. Obviously, we've been drinking for millennia as human beings, but I think that it's nice that maybe there's less social pressure to drink and that people can decide what they want to do. But yeah, I thought it was fascinating that the bosses over at Hawksmoor were saying, you know, with such global uncertainty, maybe difficult times, that people are sometimes drinking more. But yeah, it depends how. There's a huge kind of cost factor, isn't there, too?
Well, I mean, look, whether it's cost, whether it's people being more health conscious, whether it's just January or whether it's the state of the world, I think there's a lot of factors that you can point to about what's driving you to drink or not drink, as the case may be. It's a great read. You'll find it at Bloomberg.com, and we'll put a link to it in our podcast show notes. Well, let's bring you more on that meeting in Washington now over Greenland. Denmark's foreign minister says a fundamental disagreement over the island's future remains. Our chief Europe correspondent Oliver Crook is with us now for more. Oliver, was any progress then made at this meeting?
Well, I think it's, you sort of summarized the headline. That's the story that everybody's running with, that line from the Danish foreign minister after those meetings with J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C. yesterday, saying that there's still fundamental disagreements that remain. They gave a little press conference after that, saying that basically nothing is really solved at this point. The discussions were frank and constructive, but says that really their position has been since the very beginning that it is possible to secure Greenland through the framework that exists currently, the 1951 agreement that basically governs the relationship of the United States' presence in Greenland, that was signed just 2 years after NATO in order to beef up Arctic security, and that they have also announced now a high-level working group to, quote, this is what he said, explore if they can find a common way forward in the issue of Greenland, and that work will start to try to find a path that accommodates both the concerns of the United States and obviously the number of red lines that have been set out by Denmark.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to take anything from the body language of that sort of hasty press conference, as you say, they looked grim and quite glum. What do we know about the plans to beef up the military presence in Greenland? Is that going to satisfy Donald Trump? I mean, it's like a handful of military individuals being sent.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things here. We should say that last year Denmark announced that they would add, several billions dollars more in terms of consecrating that to the security of Denmark. We know that the Danes are going to be sending more troops, more aircraft, more naval vessels as well. But we also got a signal of solidarity from a number of European countries overnight over the last basically 24 hours, where we have Germany, Sweden, Norway, the UK. They're all sending what are currently very, very, very small military delegations to Greenland. But today we expect the Germans to send 13 soldiers in what they're calling an exploratory mission to Greenland. The Defense Ministry of Germany is saying that they're going to explore the framework of conditions for possible military contributions to support Denmark in ensuring security in the region, for example, on maritime surveillance capacities. Yesterday we heard from the Prime Minister of Sweden out on X saying that basically they will prepare for the upcoming elements of the framework of the Danish exercise on Operation Arctic Endurance. And that what is interesting, he said, it is Denmark's request that Sweden send personnel to the armed forces. So this is something that Denmark has asked for. Norway will send a couple. France will open a consulate in Greenland on February the 6th, and the foreign minister says that that's a political signal. So listen, at the moment, it's really sort of a symbolic move to bring more of the troops there, solidarity within Europe. We should say that it's not really going to be a military deterrent for the United States, but it may be an effective diplomatic deterrent.
Okay, Oliver Crook, our chief Europe correspondent, thank you very much. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Daybreak Europe coming up after this.
Now, as Donald Trump's aggressive foreign policy moves have been upending global relations, China's president is welcoming a procession of leaders who are looking to build relations with the world's second largest economy. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is there now, and the UK's Keir Starmer and Germany's Friedrich Merz are visiting in the coming weeks. Our Greater China executive editor John Liu joins us now for more. John, good to speak to you. How significant is this increase in diplomatic activity around China and all of these visits? What is driving this steady stream of leaders to Beijing's door?
So I would describe the current increase as very substantial. I mean, in addition to those leaders that you mentioned, we also had Emmanuel Macron from France at the end of last year. We had the Prime Minister of Ireland earlier this year, the President of South Korea also earlier in January. And then, of course, looking into April, we are expecting President Trump to make a visit. And so a lot of diplomatic activity, very unusual. What's driving it? I would say there are three things. All of these countries are looking for ways to fortify their economies, to bolster growth. China is the world's second biggest economy. There's a lot of trade to be done. And there's also this interest in securing access to rare earths. China obviously has this huge dominance when it comes to supplies of critical minerals. And all of these economies want access to those minerals. And I think the second thing is you saw President Trump and President Xi meeting in South Korea at the end of last year and reaching this sort of detente. And I think there is this concern that as Xi and Trump meet each other more often, they might meet each other 4 times in 2026. I think there is this concern amongst the middle powers, Germany, France, the UK, that they might be left out of that party. And so there is an interest in trying to get involved. And now many of these leaders, Mr. Starmer, Mr. Carney, these are all new leaders. And so this change in leadership offers an opportunity for these countries to try and reset their relationship with China.
Are there risks too, though? How are these foreign leaders handling the more sensitive issues for China, like Taiwan?
I think the strategy is to try not to talk about it. I mean, if you listen to these leaders when they visit, they are going to great odds to make the emphasis be on economics, on business, on trade, and they are avoiding Taiwan specifically. We've seen this spat between China and Japan because the Prime Minister of Japan made these sort of off-the-cuff remarks that seem to open up the door for Japan's military to get involved if there were ever a conflict over Taiwan. And now China is cutting off rare earths. It's cutting off tourists to Japan. And so that has gotten really intense, and I think is acted as example number one of why these other leaders will not want to talk about Taiwan.
Yeah, and briefly, how does Beijing view these new overtures then? Is it all about the economic benefits?
I think the economics are very important. China's own economy is in a fairly weak state at the moment. They've got a real estate crisis. Consumption is low. Exports has been the one highlight of the economy, and that has created a lot of trade tensions with European countries specifically. And so there is an interest with China in trying to maintain their access to these markets, but also all of these leaders coming to Beijing, this sort of gives Xi an opportunity to really grow China's influence around the world. And so I think this is how they see it. This is how Beijing sees it, as an opportunity both economically and diplomatically.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, your morning brief on the stories making news from London to Wall Street and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed every morning on Apple, Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning on London DAB Radio, the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day, right here on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.